Mr. Calata, we'll talk in a moment about whether or not Warren Buffett was in charge of Eskom. Nothing would change, essentially.
Okay.
Let's start with this meeting that is probably in full swing right now. Any murmurs coming out of that meeting as to what potentially could be the way forward? We're reading in the press this morning that there could be mooted changes in the Eskom board. Remember that conversation we had with the Public Enterprise Minister yesterday, suggesting that that is work in progress as far as the performance of the board.
All right. So what we know thus far is the meeting is virtual. Right? Over and above that, Polly, it's been very, very difficult to try and get information out. We spoke, or I tried to at least speak to the head of the Government Communication and Information Services, Sis Phumla Williams, but she's been silent on as to whether or not we can expect a post-cabinet briefing, maybe sometime today or tomorrow, or whether the President is likely to address us on a way forward as to once decisions have been taken coming out of this meeting. And that's really been difficult to get any information out. My reading is that it seems that there's no real plan on how to move forward. Because if there was a plan, there would have been some level of communication with us as the media to say this and this and this is what's going to happen post this cabinet meeting. But nothing. It's really been radio silence, and it's been frustrating. It's frustrating for me to come and sit here and to say that we're not really getting any information coming from government.
If, Lukhanyo, the President is not the person who is going to address the nation, what should the public read into that? Because then, if the President is not going to address the nation post this meeting, then I suppose we're going to see the usual communication coming out through GCIS, Government Communications, and the person addressing that is the man charged with communicating cabinet decisions, and that's Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Kungubele. Are South Africans likely to accept that, or do you think perhaps this is the moment for the President to step up once again?
If it's not the President, then it's simply not enough. Then why would he have then cut short his international trip to come and deal specifically with issues of Eskom and load shedding? It simply has to be the President. We have to, only if the President comes and he says there's a plan, I think that the country will follow. The country will understand that this is what it is that we're doing, but there has to be a plan that's communicated by us, by the person that we appointed as the country to come and serve us in the office of the presidency. I think there's one thing that for me as a journalist that I've experienced quite a lot over the years is that once politicians get into power, then it's almost as if we as the public and as the media are there to serve them. And there's almost like a misalignment of the roles to say, but hold on, you are the minister. As a minister, you are actually there. You're appointed by me as the member of the public. You are there to serve me. So I shouldn't stand up, I shouldn't stand up when you walk into a room. It should be you that stands up when I walk into the room because you are there to serve me. So the President has to be the one that we have appointed. He has to be the one that stands up and gives us the plan as to how we are going to address this matter. If it's not him, it's not enough.
Well, talking about the deafening silence, at least for now, that level of criticism has been directed towards the Eskom board chairperson, Professor Malekhaburu Mahoba, one of the former members of the Eskom board, I think Mr. Vali Padayachi, suggesting that he's been too quiet for his liking, given the crisis that's taking place in that entity right now. And the reason I'm taking us here is on the back of John Steenhuisen, who says that it doesn't matter who you put in charge, how often you change the deck tables. The point is that structurally, Eskom simply needs to change. We can't continue with the monopoly, and that's why he argues for municipalities to be allowed to purchase power from independent power producers.
Well, it's difficult. Remember, when you're the chairperson of the board of Eskom, you don't really have carte blanche to come out and make statements as you wish. You are answerable to the minister, right? And so, it's almost as if your words have to be approved by the minister, even though Eskom is seen as it should be a sovereign body, an independent body, but ultimately, the chairperson of the board of Eskom making a statement, it affects the markets. The implications are a little bit bigger than just, obviously, his office. So I understand his silence. I'm not saying it's right. But I understand where he comes from, because obviously he is answerable to the Minister of Public Enterprises. The minister also can obviously make certain pronouncements, but up until a certain point, because he's answerable to the president himself.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that hierarchy, and us understanding that, makes things a little bit easier to say, okay, he's not speaking because of X, Y, and Z. The point about the Democratic Alliance, or that John Steenhuisen is making about whether or not if it was Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or the case, Eskom would still be failing. I think maybe it's a bit disingenuous. I think Warren Buffett, or Bill Gates, one of the smartest individuals that ran multinational companies, became billionaires, multi-billionaires. So I think if they were in charge of Eskom, they would have made certain different decisions. Remember, Eskom is in this predicament that it's in purely because the government or successive administrations of the African National Congress had failed to build the generational capacity that we needed.
Yeah.
In 1994, when they took over, electricity was only meant for a very small amount of population, of our population. So when you're then rolling it out to the rest of the country,
Demand is high.
Demand is high, but if you're not generating that, you're going to find yourselves where we are. So President Thabo Mbeki must answer, President Jacob Zuma must answer, and of course now President Cyril Ramaphosa has to answer.
Finally, perhaps you're now taking this into the political realm, and you mentioned that if the president is going to cut his trip short to come and address this issue, well, he best be the one that addresses the nation. I'm going to be speaking to the governing party in this hour. The people of South Africa, I think to say that they're fed up with this situation is a massive understatement. That party, as led by President Ramaphosa, what should they be saying and doing, more importantly, right now?
I think, firstly, the African National Congress needs to accept responsibility that it was the ANC's policies that got us to this point. What does any of its policies say since 1991 about this issue of power generation? Right? We can troll through any of their policy documents since 1991. What does it say about the issue of power generation? So the ANC needs to accept responsibility. It needs to apologize to the people of South Africa to say that we are where we are because of us. And I think it needs to admit that it has failed, and that maybe it needs to find the right people to help us as a country move forward. Cadre deployment, some of the people that are in key positions at this moment aren't necessarily the best people to take us out. The ANC got us here.
Yeah.
So maybe they need to eat some humble pie, accept that they're the ones that brought us here, and then maybe find different people to help lead us out of this quagmire that we're in as a country.
Lukhanyo Calata, perhaps we are going to have to wait and hear what they tell us when we speak to them next. But certainly things are not going well for the country right now, subjected to 6 hours of load shedding daily.
It's actually 8, sir.
Well,
under stage 6, it's 8. Remember, under stage 6, there's a block where there's 4 hours of load shedding. right? And then there's the 2 before that, and then another 2 before that. So under stage 6, yes. Under stage 5, it's 6, but under stage 6, it's 8.
Well, there you have it. Thank you very much for that analysis. That's our politics editor, Lukhanyo Calata.